Welcome back to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. Thank you for being with us today. Moments away, we're going to talk about the art of canning. But first, it's dry, it's hot, plants are thirsty, tree diaper's the answer.
Tree diaper is a revolutionary watering system that slowly releases water on the base of any tree or plant as the soil dries. The tree diaper is filled with water from rain or when you water and slowly releases water over 3 weeks. No more overwatering or underwatering with the tree diaper. Every time it rains, the tree diaper recharges. No pipes, hoses, or electricity needed. Water your plants and trees, whether they're by the house, down the road, or in the back 40. Also works under mulch. Whether you're a first-time gardener or advanced, tree diaper will improve the way you water your plants. Made in the USA, you can find all the sizes they have available at treediaper.com.
Treediaper.com works as advertised, and we've got it in our garden, and it works even better. So Holly is a multi-award-winning Wisconsin State Fair canner, has taken multiple classes with certified master canners, and we're going to talk about canning for those who are new or just beginning. Number one, it's not as scary as you think it is, and number two, you got to follow the directions, and I'll let you take it from there. When it comes to water bath canning, we're not going to talk about pressure canning specifically. We're more water bath canning.
Absolutely. So the biggest thing is to the biggest thing is to consider your safety and not to cut corners, take shortcuts, anything like that. It's not a situation where you're, sauteing some vegetables and you might use a little bit more oil or garlic or onion or something. This is something where you want to follow the recipe. You want to follow the recipe exactly, and you want to follow a safe, trusted recipe.
Now, whenever we are canning, we want, like you said, a trusted, safe recipe, because we have gone to, back when people used to come out and do garden talks, we would do a number of garden talks, and we had a talk called Basics of Canning, where you would mock through a demonstration of how to safely water bath an item. And there would be people who would come, and individuals that would say, well, I do it this way, and I have figured out, and there was an individual, and I remember he had figured, you never can rice, okay? You don't can rice. Rice is a dry good that you keep in a bag, okay?
Right, or some sort of airtight container.
And he said that he figured out that you could put 319 grams of rice in the jar and pressure can it and make it, and there was another person that pressure canned jam. There are certain things, don't do it.
Right. It's like,
I
remember that guy.
Yeah. There's recipes for a reason.
It's kind of like it's not worth the effort. I think he just did it to say he did it. Like you get sick of maybe watching TV or something, and then you're like, I'm just going to figure out how to pressure can this jam. I don't know. If you've got that situation, and God bless you if you do, send us an email, gardentalkradio@gmail.com, and I'll give you some suggestions of things you can do on to help us out. How about that? That sounds good.
Yeah.
How about that? So anyway, you want to follow a trusted recipe. So you want to make sure it's within the last 10 to 15 years.
How do you know if it is?
You can look at the book where you get it from.
You're going to look at that copyright in the front page. Okay.
You can, if you're not sure, if it seems like a questionable website where it's, some homesteader or somebody who, and no, nothing against homesteaders. I appreciate your information that you provide for us.
New and improved, and I created this. I created this recipe.
Yeah. So, yeah, nothing against your whatever you've got going on your website, but if it's like I created this canning recipe, it's like, is it safe? I don't know. So something that's been created in a kitchen of professional. So there's things like Better Homes and Gardens, anything Ball Blue Book. Anything Ball Canning is fine. Taste of Home is another good resource. And then anything that has been published by a master canner. So there is SB Canning. She's got a lot of good recipes. There's somebody in Pennsylvania who wrote a couple books on canning. So there's some options for you. But if it's just, Mary Kate on the local homestead, and she's like, I just came up with this recipe, I wouldn't trust it. A lot of times people will see like bacon jam. Is this safe? Probably not.
What? And there's been things, and I'll reference. I think it's two types of jam in one jar. This was a big thing back years and years ago in the 50s and 40s, 50s, 60s. Now it's not safe to do, where you put literally two different varieties of jam in one jar, and you have like a lime or a green and a red or a blue, whatever the colors are. You'd have them top bottom. That's not safe anymore. So science and people who have died possibly because of the way that canning was done, it's been modified to make it safer. So you're not, it's not totally safe. Nothing is 100% safe. But if you follow the recipe, follow the trusted source, do exactly as it says, you have nothing to be concerned with.
Absolutely. So yeah, you want to follow the recipe. You want to prepare. So starting with the recipe, you want to read the entire thing. And because Joey and I have learned that sometimes you have to let stuff soak for 3 hours.
Overnight. Too. Yeah.
Whatever. And you're like, okay, I'm going to make this recipe. And then you get partway through and it says soak for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And
7 o'clock on a Sunday night. Oh, we're going to wrap this up before bedtime. And well, that didn't happen.
Right. So you want to keep that in mind. Just to make sure you also have the ingredients on hand. Check your stock. If you have wide mouth jars and regular mouth lids, that might not work out for you. Just stuff like that. Do I have lemon juice? Do I have fresh lemon? Not fresh lemon juice, but do I have a bottle of lemon juice that is not expired? Vinegar, sugar, canning salt, what have you. You want to make sure that you have those ingredients on hand. And also just follow the process. Know that you have to get your canner going to get it up to boiling before you want to put the jars in.
And if you have questions in regards to this, gardentalkradio@gmail.com. And if you want to go to our YouTube channel, which you just go to YouTube and search The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, we have a playlist of 44 different canning what you grow. And we've got some canning tips. We've got a number of videos that focus on doing it and doing it correctly and what you need to know and how to do it right.
Absolutely. And then you want to follow the recipe. You want to work quickly, especially if you're making something like cucumber pickles. Cucumber pickles have a tendency to get mushy. So you want to do the recipe swiftly, quickly. Obviously, don't lose any steps or don't, miss any steps. Something where you're just like, I don't need to warm up my jars. I'm going to put the hot stuff into the cold room temperature jars into the hot canner. Yeah, we've done that.
Uh-huh.
And you never just do it once. You're like, oh, what was that noise? Let me put this in here.
Well, let's go back to the pickle thing. The speed or the acceleration of the pickling process. Why is that? Why and why do you recommend pickles to being in quarts or pints instead of quarts?
For one, pickles, when you make them, they take a little bit of time to process. Anything you pickle, you want to give it time to, not the canning process, but once they're on the shelf, you want to give them time to
do the pickling thing. Yeah.
So if you put them in pint jars, they're going to essentially pickle faster.
And less time in the canner.
Right. Less time in the canner.
Which can result in a potential of mushier, not as crisp cucumber pickle thing.
Right. And that's why we, recommend using pickling cucumbers versus something else.
Right.
So if you're a real big fan of homemade pickles, I'm not that big of a fan of homemade pickles.
What?
I know. But there's certain things that I just grew up with that taste a certain way to me.
Right.
And homemade pickles just don't do the same. I don't really eat that many pickles anyway. So,
okay.
But yeah, whatever you like. Jams, definitely you want to not overcook your jam or undercook it, because you could end up with syrup, or you can end up with very gelatinous jam.
Right. And then you got to follow the processing time. And then once the jars come out, you want to make sure another thing before we wrap this up, when we put the jars in the water bath canner, the water is boiling. We are ready to start the processing. You've got the tomato, the diced tomatoes or the whole tomatoes in the jar. Water's boiling. You put the lid on and you don't crank it very tight. You finger tighten it, but you don't crank it so hard that the process of the air escaping to create the vacuum, to create the sound doesn't exist, because when people pull the jars out of the canner, pressure or water bath, and the jar, the flat portion, is too tight, it will buckle. And that is why it is buckling, is because it has been too tight and the air was escaping to the point where it was burning or busting that flat portion, that lid, off of the actual jar.
Right. So you want to take the ring off when you store them. Once they're out of the canner, you want to make sure that the lid is sealed. And if it's not sealed, you can either recan it or reprocess it. I mean, like, put it in the water bath canner. Pickles, do not do that. Don't reprocess them because they're just going to turn mushy. Just put them in the fridge and eat them within like 3 to 6 months.
So, I mean, that's a brief summary of, I mean, we can talk about basics of canning, the art of canning for 2 shows and not have everything covered to the utmost degree. So if you got any questions, gardentalkradio@gmail.com, YouTube channel, The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener, and click on the playlist. And there's several canning playlists in which you can run through, and there's a lot of detailed visualization of the particular items and how to do such. Well, Holly, summer's here. It's hot. It's unbearable in some situations. But that does not stop those Japanese beetles from wreaking havoc on anything and everything in and out of your garden.
If you're looking to successfully control beetle invaders without damaging the environment, look no further than Beetle Gone from Phylum Bioproducts, derived from a naturally occurring soil bacteria. Beetle Gone is the only organic solution that successfully controls beetle invaders. Just mix the powder with water and spray on your plants. Once ingested, the targeted pests will stop feeding and die. And since it's an organic BT product, you know it's a great choice to use on your fruits and veggies in addition to your ornamental flowers and trees.
Not only does Beetle Gone work, but it's the only product that is safe to use around beneficial insects such as ladybugs, butterflies, and bees, and has 0 water toxicity. Beetle Gone from Phylum Bioproducts. Find out more at beetlegone.com. And when you purchase, be sure to include the coupon code GardenTalk10 to save 10% on your order at beetlegone.com.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.